watching the Screaming Fish Should Be Born. Once again, I'm here for you guys with yet another video, and this time, as you can tell by the clearly very obvious title at the bottom of the screen, we are taking a look at Annabelle Creation. Why am I clicking my fingers? I mean, anyway, but without further ado, I think you'd all like to hear my thoughts on Annabelle Creation instead of hearing me ramble on like I usually do. So, yeah, let's go talk about a horror movie. So lately I've been trying to get into the horror genre, partly because seeing as how I'm reviewing movies on YouTube, I thought it would be a good idea to expand the variety of movies I watch. I'll admit, right here, right now, my two favourite genres of film are action and sci-fi. Most of the movies I enjoy are from those two genres. I haven't watched a lot of horror films though. I've seen both of the Woman in Black movies, both the Conjuring movies, It Follows and the Insidious trilogy, as well as every single Alien movie, and that's about it. Most of which though I thoroughly enjoyed. Annabelle Creation is actually the second horror film I've seen in the cinema, the first being Alien Covenant. I have not seen the first Annabelle movie, and I have no desire to, seeing as how it's regarded as one of the worst horror movies ever made, and one of the worst movies of 2014, although I have seen clips from the movie. Luckily this time around, this movie is a prequel to not only the Conjuring movies like the first was, but even a prequel to the first Annabelle movie. Basically a prequel to the prequel of the Conjuring. So I didn't need to sit through the first Annabelle movie, thank God. That said, I wasn't sure what to expect with this movie. I was pretty nervous that I was going to get a movie that was cliché beyond belief, with far too many jump scares with an overabundance of bad acting. Thankfully though, as surprised as I am to say it, I really enjoyed this movie. Annabelle Creation is one of the most enjoyable horror films I've seen so far. It's an extremely fun and well-made film with quite a few good scares. This movie is directed really, really well. David Sandberg was clearly putting his all into this movie. The camera work, for starters, is quite striking. There are a lot of long, unbroken takes of the environment that these characters inhabit that are rather gorgeous. But this movement of the camera is really effective in the scares, and that brings me to the imagery. The imagery in this movie is fantastic. I know I haven't seen a lot of horror movies, but this movie has some of the most effective imagery I've seen in horror films. However, Sandberg uses two key components to build up suspense: cinematography and sound design. Those two elements are essential for building up suspense and contributing to a truly horrifying experience. The sound design for this movie is off the charts. The music was haunting, and the way it shifted between really eerie and spine-chilling music to loud and startling sound effects I thought was riveting. The timing for these sound effects is also really good, and the cinematography is top-notch. This is a really good looking movie. I also really like how the scares are done here. There's a lot of really effective shots of characters doing things with really creepy and unsettling stuff going on in the background. Whenever there was something really horrifying going on, I could not take my eyes off the background. That also really surprised me because there really weren't as many jump scares in this movie as I thought there would be. Yes, there are jump scares present, but there really isn't a lot of them. Plus, pretty much all those jump scares I found to be really effective. There was actually a couple who were sitting behind me who were actually laughing at me because I kept jumping out of my seat. That's how effective they were. But this movie is so much more than just an extremely entertaining and effective horror film. There are actually some really good characters in this story. The two main characters are played by Talitha Bateman and Lulu Wilson, and they're best friends in this orphanage who dream of being adopted by the same parents. I actually ended up caring for these two girls quite a lot, and even more depth is added to their friendship because there is this demonic force that is trying to split them apart. I was actually invested when these two were on screen, and I was interested in what their future could be. This isn't just bump in the night scares, there are actually characters in this movie that you can root for. Which is why when things got more sinister and scary near the third act, I was heavily invested because I cared so much about these two girls. I also got to say that performance-wise, these two knocked it out of the park. They were brilliant in this movie. I was also very interested in how they told the creation of the Annabelle doll itself. In a sense, you can view this as an origin story, but in the form of a horror movie. But I liked what they did with it. I thought they told the origin story of this doll in a really cool way. I'm not going to get into it too much because I feel that would be a spoiler, but there are certain plot points and setups in this movie that I think made this doll a more compelling and intimidating presence, not only in this movie but even in the other films this thing has appeared in. I can say that Annabelle Creation surprised me quite a bit. It's a very well-made horror movie with some very effective scares alongside some great main characters and story arcs. David Sandberg has gone and made a horror film that is a blast from start to finish. It's a film that has you on the edge of your seat, and it's fun. It's an old-fashioned movie that you can just watch from start to finish and have a great time, even though it's, you know, simultaneously scaring the bejesus out of you. I think Annabelle Creation is a great introduction to the Conjuring universe. I repeat, Conjuring universe. This film actually adds some lore to this universe, and I have to say, this movie ties into the first movie in a really incredible way. I have actually seen clips from the first Annabelle movie, and when this movie ended, I instantly thought to myself, oh, okay, I get it now. As for things I didn't like about the movie, some of the scares didn't really affect me all that much, but considering I was absolutely terrified for a vast majority of this film, that's a very small handful. The scares are actually pretty subtle in this, and a lot of them are hinted at and built up. I also got to commend Sandberg for the way he utilised the gore in this movie. It wasn't too much or too little, it was very brief to make it seem atmospheric, and it pays off. I do think further development of some of the other characters wouldn't have gone astray. For example, Stephanie Sigmund's character does play a pretty significant role in this film, but outside of one small scene, we get nothing from her backstory-wise. Overall though, this movie really did surprise me. This movie could have been absolutely terrible, and some would argue that a movie about the origins of a doll that is possessed by an evil force is unnecessary and a total cash grab. But this movie is actually really good. David Sandberg did a really good job with this movie, and I cannot wait to see more from this franchise. I'm still not too sure what to think of the idea of a Conjuring universe, but as a guy who's trying to get into horror movies a lot more, I can say that Annabelle Creation and Get Out, which is another really good horror movie I saw this year, were a pretty good start. So guys, those are my thoughts on Annabelle Creation. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it was a really good movie and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think if you're a fan of horror movies, I think you will too. So, yeah. Once again, thank you for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I will indeed see you guys in the next one. So, before I go, I would just like to ask you guys, have you seen Annabelle Creation? What did you think of it? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And once again, I will indeed see you guys in the next one. So, yeah, this is part where I say goodbye in a really cringeworthy way. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Bye!